So this is my poster. Will space settlement induce novel transformative experiences? So what's a transformative experience? A transformative experience is something that can catalyze permanent epistemic change by challenging or examining this boundary between ourselves and the environment. So one can think about going into space, obviously does that, but so do a lot of other things. And so, my poster is just full of a bunch of quotes from different sources. And so this is from Lori-Ann Paul, who wrote the book Transformative Experience. In transformative experiences or situations, we do not know enough about what we are going to be like on the other side of that decision. And so the you making the decision may not be the same version of you after the decision has been made. And so, one could say, should I have a baby is a classic example that she uses in her book. You may have feelings about whether you should or should not become a parent, but after you do, the feelings you have about that decision may be totally different than otherwise. You can contrast that with tasting a new fruit, for example, tends to maybe interesting, enlightening, but not have like a deep, permanent epistemic lasting change. And so on a civilizational level, living on floating cities, I put as an example, like, okay, neat, but is that really going to change the way we think about ourselves or our species or civilization? Probably not, but living on Mars, I think yes. If we were to try to do this on any scale, I think this will have this kind of impact. And so what she challenges us is draw on empirical findings when empirical findings are possible. So should I have a baby? Well, you can go ask a bunch of friends and family what's it like. That may or may not tell you what you're going to experience, but at least it gives you some idea of what other people have experienced, and you can make a decision. So I have two examples. The overview effect, people going into space, and psychedelia, people going into inner space. And I'll say I left out religion because they are not repeatable experiments. I acknowledge that religion is very real for a lot of people, and I don't discount the reality of the experiences, but the experiments of sending a random group of people into such and such religious service and having them come out and have the same measured outcome, it just doesn't work that way. And so that's just, it can't be studied this way. But the overview effect, there's been a number of people who've gone into space and have reported these transformative shifts in their own perspective. So here's the Earth from low Earth orbit, and even just low Earth orbit, we have modern people going into space report these feelings of enlightenment. This is astronaut Al Seiko Jr. He realized that we are all a member of the human family, not even just a citizen of Earth, we're all citizens of the universe. And this is a common feeling that a lot of people get. When you go then to lunar orbit, you see Earth, you can blot out Earth with your hand, with a thumb. This changes this perspective. Some astronauts feel that you're not even a true astronaut until you have actually left Earth orbit. So Edgar Mitchell probably was the most prominent in raising awareness of the overview effect. He had a peak experience, religious experience, and an explosion of awareness, a wow. He realized the universe is made up of spirit, the bridge is consciousness, God is universal consciousness. So we move from here to psychedelia because you can see that what Edgar Mitchell experienced has a lot of similarities to terrestrial psychedelic experiences or mystical experiences that people have, whether it's induced by a compound or not. And Edgar Mitchell even took an interest in some of these esoteric topics in his later years. And so I focus specifically on DMT because out of all the psychedelics, this is the only one I could find that actually had specific experiences that were repeatable. And so this guy, Rick Strassman, he actually did clinical, federally approved, controlled experiments of DMT at different doses, and at a specific dose level, at about a 75% rate, the experiment subjects had contact with non-material beings in a non-physical world. And his was not the first case. There were experiments in the 1950s that found the same things. Only with DMT, not with LSD or anything else, do you meet up with them, beings in this world. They might be laying on a bed. They might be conducting experiments on you. Some of them were not pleasant. A lot of them were very pleasant, so it wasn't always good, but it was very consistent. The DMT elves or the DMT gnomes came out of it. And so what he says is these experiences are similar to naturally occurring, non-drug induced psychedelic states, mystical states. The hypothesis is that maybe these all are related to the release of DMT, which we have in the pineal gland in our brain. So the hypothesis is that perhaps in something like the overview effect, as well as just other, maybe even this would be a religious service, perhaps the mystical experiences we have are related to something like an endogenous release of DMT in the brain. And so then this leads me to the conclusion. I have the Mars overview hypothesis. I predict when people begin to live on Mars, they will report personal transformative experiences through contact with non-material, non-human beings. Probably not what astrobiologists are looking for, but I think we should be ready for something like this. I mean, just to conclude, here is the Earth from Mars. This is taken by the Perseverance rover. So, okay, this is cool. But now imagine yourself standing right here on the surface of Mars, looking at Earth. I'm gonna freak out. I mean, how did you get back there? Like this, I think there are going to be people that will have, psychological breakdowns here. Now, just suppose then someone has a psychological breakdown, and then they enter a mystical state, perhaps mediated, through DMT release, and then they report back to mission control on Earth. Oh, it's okay. I met a non-material, tiny person who told me it's going to be okay. I'm good now. We have to be prepared for this sort of thing. This is how our minds work. We maybe not understand why, but I mean, I think these case studies show that our minds go to very strange places when we are, again, challenging the boundary between the environment and self. And so Mars is just going to push that further. And so I'm curious where that's going to go, but that's a prediction. And yeah, chapter 7 of my book is kind of where a lot of this comes from.
That's fascinating. It kind of reminds me of, you'll hear stories of people who have near-death experiences, or they're lost in the wilderness.
That's right. Yeah.
And they're injured, and they kind of have these moments of some connection that just helps them get through it.
That's right.
And it's maybe some hallucination or just some part of their brain trying to help them out.
That's right. That's right. And so that's part of the hypothesis. And it could be that it's not everything is just the DMT. There could be other endogenous chemicals in our brain that get released under stressful periods or something like that. And I think it's certainly interesting and worth exploring. Even the word hallucinogen. Not to pick on what you said. That's the medical term. The medical literature doesn't use the term psychedelic. Maybe some of the very recent explorations and stuff, but like a hallucinogen is like, oh, you're making something up, it's to be dismissed. Psychedelic means mind manifesting. And so, I'm interested, like, I don't believe this is putting us in contact with extraterrestrials that are on exoplanets. Like some people may believe this, but this is a common, repeatable experience. Why? What does this tell us about the human mind? That when you take a certain dose of DMT, we all meet the machine elves. That there's something. Yeah. It might tell us about how our brain evolved, or consciousness, or I don't know. But it's something that needs to be explained to me.
Yeah. I wonder too, like, the compounding stresses of these different scenarios, like being in microgravity and being just strapped to a rocket and being shaken around, and then all of the other side effects of radiation and changing your diet have some effect that makes you primed to...
Oh, it totally does. So Frank Wright's book, The Overview Effect, it's okay. Like, I mean, it's really good because he interviews all these astronauts, and it's the appendix is worth it. He kind of speculates in a direction that I think is a little too far, but the beginning of the book is actually pretty good, and he does talk about what you're just saying, like all the physical factors that the astronauts experience that kind of prime them for these. So it's exactly what you're saying, because you're already in a foreign environment. For sure.
Question.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm guessing like the first generation people to be experiencing this detachment, it makes sense that it could be very transformative, but after generations, it could be as normal as
That's right.
living here, where we're floating in space, and it's just like nothing. We don't even think about it.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's why I said when people begin to live on Mars, because you're right. I mean, this picture was like when my grandfather was alive, and this picture was returned to space, or even my parents. Like this was profound for anybody to see. Now, kids growing up see this before they can even say words. You say, oh, that's Earth. Like being able to point at a picture and say that's Earth is a very recent thing, and so I think that's good. But it will change the transformative character of that. And in the same sense, like going to low Earth orbit may eventually lose even some of that transformative experience, and then you may have to go to the lunar base or to Mars just to kind of have that experience. And so, that's kind of a different problem of like sort of thrill chasing, I guess.
There's the new book coming out on the ultraview effect.
I haven't seen that.
I forgot her name. I think her first name is Diana or something.
Okay.
But yeah, the ultraview effect is just like, instead of focusing on, the Earth, focusing on the vastness behind it, or like on the other side, just the vastness of space.
I mean, that's a big part of it. So I'll be curious to see that when it comes out.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of the astronauts, what they report, I think William Shatner even said this, but a lot of them is the blackness. Like you see Earth, but then you just turn your head, and then it's like literally nothing.
The problem is, I feel like it's not that common for astronauts to have like EVAs that they can't even see the Earth at all, like where they're only facing the blackness. I feel like the Earth is typically a huge part of their view.
Yeah.
So the ultraview effect is like pretty rare. I know of only one like specific report.
Was it Michael Collins?
It might be.
Because he was he flew around the backside of the moon while Neil Armstrong was on the surface. Yeah, he said I think the quote was that no man has ever been so alone since Adam. Because he was out of radio contact for like an hour or so. Yeah. I know, you just think about that. I'm like, wow, that's brave. Yeah.
But I mean, to your point, like we're so adaptable that
Oh my god.
we can normalize things really quickly.
Yeah.
Like kids are so used to technology now. Like growing up on Mars, you'll need that overview effect again. Like it won't have that impact.
Yeah, you'll be stories about like your great grandfather who like had this experience, and they'll be like, what? Grandpa must have been crazy, Like that's just Earth over there. What's the big deal,
So, like, do you think, maybe you can go into this in your book, but is that first generation on Mars like the most dangerous inflection point?
Yeah. Oh, I don't go into that at all. Like, yeah, no, I don't even have this. Well, I think I do have that in there, but yeah, that's as far as I go. But the other thing I talk about is I'm not an advocate for we should go. I think we talked about this earlier too. I think we should talk about this, and I don't know that we will ever have 1 million people in a city on Mars. Like we have people living in Antarctica now. We don't really have big cities on Antarctica, and we never might. It's a really difficult place to live, and it's not even very commercially viable to like get minerals or resources from there. So I suspect that's the most likely outcome for Mars, that we will have people there. It might be a permanent settlement. It'll probably be mostly focused on science. There might be some commercial prospecting going on, but I think it'll be really hard. And so then to answer that question, like, if it's always a small outpost, then this could maybe go on for a little while longer than if you really like start having a way to propagate and procreate on Mars. But yeah, I think you'll still have the first people will always have like the first people to have the overview effect. That was like anyone else now who goes into space is primed to think about that might be an experience they have. So.
I was going to say also, despite the adaptivity that we have to new experiences, I feel like if we are able to make salient and really be present in the moment, like for example, Rick Whitehouse talked about the overview effect on planes, right?
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if you really focus and like are open like to that, to soak in the perspective, that can also allow a channel for people to experience that.
That's a good point. I almost actually had the airplane picture on here, and it just didn't fit format. No, that's a good point actually, because every time a kid has their first flight, it's mind blowing to have that overview effect. And like part of that is just like the I don't know what the word is, just adults kind of get a little like, we have this problem with science communication in general. Just adults, they don't want to like learn necessarily, but the kids are learning, and then they might like, look over their shoulder and learn something on, But so yeah, in that sense, we've had airplanes for a while, and every new generation still gets to experience that for the first time. So maybe we won't lose all of this. Like everybody will still have their first experience, and Like your parents will tell you, oh, we're going to go to low Earth orbit. You're going to have such a good time. And I don't know.